What's up, guys? Welcome back to something a little bit different. Hopefully this will help you decide what manufacturer you are going to choose before Saturday. Usually we don't get the choice between exhibition series and the actual legit championships to change our cars again, but PD, you've been so kind to us recently. You've been so kind to us. They've given us the option to change cars, probably due to the recent update, sort of changing the way cars act, tyre wear and stuff like that. So hopefully this video is going to help you. This video is focused on the Group 4 cars. We will do a video about the Group 3 as well, and then a comparison video between the two to make sure that you guys get the best amount of information to hopefully decide what car, what manufacturer you're going to pick. So the way I have done it is I've gone to Interlagos, which is the first race of the new manufacturers series. I've gone for soft tyres. I have done an out lap and then 5 flying laps, so 6 total on each of the cars. The brake bias is set at 0 for all of the cars, so we can get a well-orientated idea of how the cars chew their tyres up. And the way that I have judged or collected the data is by some kind of point system. There's 3 rounds. There is fastest lap, fastest slowest lap, so we can see how bad the tyre wear is, maybe in comparison to the fastest lap, and also just the tyre wear itself. Obviously, if the car finishes top in one of those 3 areas, it will get 26 points, as there is 26 possible Group 4 cars you can choose from. Obviously, the points then go down, 25, 24, 23, etc, etc, all the way down to 1. The car with the most points at the end of the 3 rounds will be the victor. Simple. So, a couple of disclaimers. Yes, I may not be the fastest driver. I hold my hands up to that. But I am consistent, and I can say that I have been consistent with the way that I have driven all 26 of these cars. It took me 6 hours last night. 6 hours. And I think I've done a pretty decent job of being consistent through all of the cars. There was no sliding, so there wasn't that extra bit of tyre wear. But yes, I understand that you can go faster in some of these cars around Interlagos, but this is in my opinion, and it's down to my level of skill. And I am, if you want to know, I am this close off an A+, and I race with a controller. But that's about it. Let's get into it. Also, what you're seeing on the side there is just a couple of cars doing their 5 or 6 laps. Just to show you the process that I went through when conducting this experiment. Okay. Also, I know you guys like the moving pictures, and I know it's quite hard to sort of sit and listen to someone talk for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes about cars when there's not some action going on. So there you go. Have that action, or wherever it is. Have that action. So sitting in completely dead last is the Dodge. Not really surprising, seeming that not very many people choose it. It's a bit of a dog to handle. It's not the most agile. It shredded the tires. It was really poor in the tires, and it had a very average fast lap. Super average, and it kind of deserves to be at the bottom. You would expect it's a Dodge. It's got so much power. It doesn't. It's not competitive at all. So unfortunately, Dodge, you're at the bottom, pal. Next up is possibly one of the most surprising placements in all of this. It's the Megane. And purely because we're going to talk about this a couple of times with the front wheel drive cars. the tyres just shred. And yes, we can move the brake bias back when we actually race, and that will help take off that pressure off the front tyres, so it will save them a little bit longer. But in a general comparison like we're doing right now, the tyre wear is so bad on the front wheel drive cars. Yes, it is fast in a straight line, but it suffers in the corner. Kind of disappointed. I was expecting it to be higher up. Everyone kind of raves about it being a really good car. But 25th, really disappointing. Not terribly fast. Terrible on tyre wear. What's going on? What's going on, France? Next up, another American muscle, the Chevy. Once again, kind of disappointing. I really like the Group 3 Chevy, but super disappointing. It's consistent, but it's consistently slow. It's not exciting. It's kind of dull, and it's not great on the tyre wear either. It kind of, once again, it just deserves to be near the bottom. And I think that might be a theme with all of the cars in this bottom half, is that they have that potential, but because the tyre wear is so extreme on them, they fail to reach that potential. Next up is the Lexus. Once again, we are not surprised, as the Lexus is terrible on tyre wear. But I thought its fastest lap would have been faster, but it wasn't. It was kind of bang average in the middle. Obviously, I was with Lexus for a season, so I know about the tyre wear woes. But yeah, dead last in tyre wear. The worst tyre wear out of all of the cars, and it's a real shame because it's quite good in a straight line, and it's quite lively in the corners. I'm probably going to say that about a couple of these cars where I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know if it's going to understeer or if it's going to oversteer. You know, it happens with this car and it happens with a couple of others. So quite a tricky car to drive as well. And the risk-reward is just not worth it, and it finds itself in 23rd. Moving up to the next front-wheel drive car, the Peugeot, the Pug. The fastest Group 4 car in a straight line that I tested, it reached 150 at the top of the start-finish straight, which is 2 or 3 miles an hour faster than any of the other cars. But once again, the front-wheel drive problems, shredding those front tyres, makes it very difficult to drive. Yes, hands up again, I'm not the best with front-wheel drive cars. I don't really understand how to be fast in them. So you could be faster, which would then bump them up the order a little bit. But, I mean, I'm driving all of these cars, so it's a generalization, and that shouldn't really be taken into consideration. But once again, ruined by the tyre wear. Super fast in a straight line. If you had it all the way to the back with the brake bias, possibly you could do something with it, but the tyre wear would kill you in the end. 22nd, what can I say? Another Frenchman down the bottom. Vive la France! The Aston, the big booty, the thick Brit. Aston is in 21st place. Once again, we're not surprised. It's got terrible tyre wear, and you want more from the Aston. You want more. It's just, it feels like it's got something to give, but then when you drive it, it's kind of boring. You know, these are my opinions, obviously, and I'd love to know your opinions in the comments. But I found it really boring. It didn't spark any kind of desire to go with it. Like, sometimes, even though a car is slow or hard to handle, you still want to have a go and drive it because it's exciting or it's a real challenge. Nothing with that with the Aston. It's just bang average and bad on tyres. It sits in 21st. Here is an interesting one. The Honda. I found it very hard to drive. I couldn't understand whether it wanted to understeer or oversteer. and I couldn't really get to grips with it until about lap 5 or 6. But by then, there's so much tyre wear that it's just undrivable anyway. Albeit the tyre wear wasn't too bad, but the fastest lap time was just not there, and the consistency was consistently slow, I felt. Yes, it probably could be driven faster in a better pair of hands, but for me, it just wasn't there, and it's the same thing with the excitement. It's just not there for me. Next up, the Scirocco, the Volkswagen. In my opinion, this is the easiest of the front wheel drive cars to handle. I think it's got more play, but still, front wheel drive tears up the tyres, which obviously puts it down in our overall leaderboard here. I think I would pick it over the Audi, even though the Audi is maybe well, it is faster. I haven't said it yet, obviously, but I would pick it over it just because it's easier to drive. If you want a front wheel drive car that's kind of easy to drive, I would go the Scirocco, the Skirock. I know other people absolutely love the TT. I just can't. I can't even with it. But regardless, Volkswagen Scirocco sits in 19th, bottom half of the table. What can you say? Next up is the Nissan. I'm quite disappointed by the Nissan's placement. I thought it would be higher up. Obviously, the Group 3 is pretty good, so when we come to the comparison video, I wonder if the Group 3 will pull the Group 4 up when we mix their points together. But the Group 4 kind of killed the front tyres. It wasn't great on the front tyres. It was a top half in the fastest lap. But the tyre wear kind of just killed it off. Yes, with a bit of play with the brake bias towards the rear, like I'm going to say a lot of the time. Yes, it could be faster and it would find its way further up the leaderboard. But yeah, 18th. Nissan. A little bit of a letdown. Next up, Subaru. The Scooby. Not surprised. Mid-pack, not fast in a straight line. You know, it's a couple of mile an hour slower than the average car on the start-finish straight. Handles well in the corner, we'll give it that. But it actually shreds the tyres a little bit. I don't understand why. I mean, correct me, obviously. You will. I know you will. But the Mitsubishi and the Subaru are both four-wheel drive cars, but they shred the front tyres. I don't understand. I obviously don't know enough about cars to understand why that happens, but it shreds the front tyres, and then there's a little bit of wear on the rears as well. Whereas in the front-wheel drive cars, you just have the fronts gone, red, and then you have literally nothing on the rear tyres. But the Subaru, once again, slow in a straight line, boring to drive, there's no drama to it at all. Yeah, there you go, 17th, not much to say about it. Sorry Subaru, but you're not exciting anyone, pal. Next up is the Ford, or the Ford Mustang. Handles quite well, to be honest. Once again, tyres kind of let it down, but a pretty decent lap time. It did post the 5th fastest time, which is, you know, that's really, really good. But I think the tyre wear just lets it down. Once again, yes, we can put brake bias to the back. I'm going to try not to say it again. But it affects the handling that much that it slows it down a lot. Some cars you can handle the car okay on warm tyres. Some cars are just an absolute dog. The Aston Martin and the Jaguar, for example, they are just absolute dogs. What can I say? Mustang, Sally. The Citroen. The Citroen. What can we say about the Citroen? One, it's a spaceship. It's freaking huge. You cannot go through the chicane of death without expecting to hit it. It's so freaking big. Not alone, if you're trying to race it in cockpit view, there's about this much space that you can look through because it's got a terrible, terrible interior. Anyway, back to this. The slowest, fastest lap out of all of the cars, but its fastest, slowest lap was only 1.5 seconds behind it. It only increased by 1.5 seconds over 6 laps, showing really, really good consistency. So in those races where you might go for just a no stop, you might be successful. You know, we see it with the Alpha a lot, and maybe the Toyota does it a bit as well. Really, really good on tyre wear, right up the top. But it's just slow. It's slow. There's a little bit of excitement to it because it does want to slide and move about a little bit. It does want to rotate quite a bit. But it's slow. It's just a freaking truck. It's a boat of a car. Literally, it's the size of a boat. It's the size of a goddamn boat. Up next is the Jag. The Jag. Setting the 6th fastest time, we know that it's got pace. We know that the Jaguar has pace. But once again, it's the tyre wear. Now, I don't know if that's because it's heavy. The Aston might be heavy as well. That's why it might suck on a tyre wear. You know, we see the Alpha basically floating around everywhere with no tyre wear. But maybe that's why it's so bad on tyre wear. Really good in a straight line. Set the 6th fastest lap time. So once again, we know it's got the power, but it lets itself down with the tyre wear. What more can you say? Super mid-pack, 14th place. Jaguar probably doing better than expected. I was expecting it to be down with the Aston, basically. They're very similar cars. Do a little bit better. A little bit surprising. Well done, Jaguar. So, into the top half. The top half, and in 13th, is the fastest front-wheel drive car, the Audi. Now, the TT, like I've said before, I'm not a fan of, but since the new update, it does rotate more. So it does make it a little bit easier to drive. Still not as easy as the Scirocco for me, but it's bloody fast. The 2nd fastest time out of all of the cars. It's fast, it's got the power, but once again, with the front wheel drive cars, the tyres shred it. You've really got to play with the brake bias, really got to slap it all the way to the back. If you are like me and on a controller, we have that little bit of tyre wear more. So, like Tijani, he races with Audi. I don't know if he's going to stick with them. With a steering wheel, you can manage that tyre wear just a little bit more. You can be a little bit smoother with it. But it made it into the top half, and for a front wheel drive car, when we're talking about tyre wear, it's very good. Very good. Well done, the Germans. In 12th, the Macca, the McLaren. Super average, to be honest. It didn't feel fast. Another one of the cars that I didn't know if it was understeering or oversteering. I just had to sort of gamble on most corners. I think there's a learning curve. Like the Honda, I don't think it's one of these cars that you can just jump in and drive. I think you have to put some practice in, a little bit of a time behind the wheel. You can pick up a car like the the Chevy or the Subaru and kind of just drive it because it's easy to drive. But I think the McLaren, you've got to have your wits about you, I think. The learning curve is steeper. I mean, I just had 6 laps, you know what I mean? I would expect in all of the cars that I could go faster with 10, 20, 30, 40 laps behind the wheel. But I think the McLaren demands a little bit more of the driver, which makes it harder to drive. But it sits in 12th. You know, it's a decent showing across the board. Now to 11th, the Porsche. We all know that the Porsche is super consistent, both in Group 4 and in Group 3 as well. But apparently the Group 3 has had a buff. We'll find that out in the next video. But the Porsche... boring. Boring. Interlagos is as much a handling circuit as it is a power circuit, in my opinion. You have the mid section, which is very, very technical, but you also have two straights that are on an incline, so you need that power to get up and get going fast. And the Porsche just lacked it. It had no grunt. It felt so sluggish. Not to mention that it sounds like a freaking bee trapped in a jar. It didn't do it for me. To me, it's not exciting and it's not fast enough. Yes, it is very, very consistent with its tyres. It was one of the best cars in the tyre wear section. Obviously, it's in 11th, but the speed let it down for me, and the excitement makes me look away from it. Next up, the Yota, the 86. We know that it's consistent on tyres. We've seen it do no stoppers before by some aliens and, well, some non-aliens too. And to be honest, I recall not having the best couple of laps in it as well. Yes, like I said, I was consistent in all of them, but I felt like I could have been faster. Like, as I'm driving these cars, I'm kind of noting which ones I feel comfortable with and which ones I don't feel comfortable with. You know, Honda, not comfortable. McLaren, not comfortable. Toyota, not comfortable. So I think there's a lot more time to come out of the Toyota, and I think it could go up a little bit more. Very good on tyres. Pretty fast as well. So if you want to go for consistency, this is probably your best bet. I'd pick it over the Porsche. And then if you're looking at Group 3 cars, which we'll come on to later, that could sway your opinion as well. Top 10, Toyota. Well done. Next up is the Mercedes. Very fast. Somehow I set the fastest lap time out of all of the cars with the Mercedes. And not by like half a tenth or a tenth. 4 tenths. It was the only car to go in the 136s. I was very, very shocked. Very shocked. And then it kind of went downhill from there. The tyre wear got a bit much. But it's sitting in 9th. Yes, you could play with the tyre wear. But once again, we're looking at consistency. It's a very consistent car. Yes, it gets a little bit understeery when the tyres start to wear, but it's very consistent along with the Group 3 car. But there's something about it that makes me not want to drive it. And I mean it in the way that I use the word boring, but obviously driving any of these cars in real life would not be boring. But in this game, it feels very vanilla. It feels very bland. It feels very safe. And when we're going to talk about some of the other cars that are coming up, they don't feel safe. They feel on the edge. They feel a little bit dangerous. And that's kind of what I want. That little bit of edge, that little bit of danger that I might bin it on 95% of the corners. But I know if I nail it, I'm going to be fast. But the Merc, sitting in 9th, it deserves to be there because it was bloody fast. I don't know what happened. Don't know what happened, but it was fast. Well done, Merc boy. Sitting in 8th. Now this is an absolute revelation. I've been driving the Ferrari Group 3 car around Brands this week, and I have absolutely loved it. I don't know what they've done, but I absolutely love the Ferrari right now, and it's sitting in 8th with a good amount of points as well. What can I say? Freaking, it's got that danger. It's got that little bit of danger. if you push it too hard, it will slide. It's one of these Group 4 cars that will oversteer if you let it. It's sitting in top 10 for tyre wear, which is insane when you think about it. Seeming that Ferrari is always associated with bad tyre wear. It's sitting in top 10. It's sitting in 9th right now. It had the 8th fastest overall time, and it had the 4th fastest slowest lap. So you can see that you can drive it when it's on those worn tyres. It's a very, very peculiar car, and it's very, very interesting to me. It sits in 8th, and it's fast, and it bloody sounds good as well. Ferrari, you've piqued my interest. Next up is Mr. Reliable in the form of the Mitsubishi. It's just so solid. I don't know how to describe it more than that. It's just solid. Yes, it's not the quickest on the straights, but it's very, very good in the corners. And it can hold itself. Brakes, pretty good. So even when you get to the end of the straight, you can probably outbrake some of the heavier, faster cars. It finished 4th in tyre wear as well. And that was, if you put more brake bars to the back, that's a really, really solid foundation you have. You know, if you're looking to last those extra lap or that extra 2 laps if you're going for an overcut. It's just so solid. And the way that it drives as well. It's not boring, but it feels so stable. It's a completely different experience to the Subaru, which I find to be a little bit boring, a little bit bland. But there's something about the Mitsubishi that even though they drive similar, there's a little bit of there's a spark here, and it makes me want to drive it. I like it. Mixie, you done well. Top 7, buddy. Top 7. Now, we all know the Group 3 Mazda is pretty darn good. A lot of people turn their nose up at the Group 4, and I think this is going to show them wrong. It's going to show them that the Mazda can do it. 5th in overall tyre wear. The Mazda has good tyre wear. Who thought? I thought it had terrible tyre wear. Mid-pack in the fastest lap. It was the 14th fastest. But it's super solid. I would kind of compare it to the Mitsubishi, but a little bit more wild. Just a tiny bit. It doesn't have that stability of the Mitsubishi. But it does have a little bit more speed on the straight line, and the fastest, slowest lap as well. It was pretty good. It was top 10. So you can tell that you can handle the car when it's on those worn tyres. I didn't expect it from the Mazda, to be honest. I didn't expect it to be top 10, but it's sitting in 6th. So that's one for thought as well, man. Really is. Top 5 now. We're into the top 5, chat. We're into the top 5. Some of them, yes, we expected because of the tyre wear and because the type of cars that they are. But some of them, very, very peculiar. Sitting in 5th is the BMW M4, setting the 3rd fastest lap time out of all of the cars with a 37.1, I think it was. Very similar to how the Lexus feels, but less mental. You know, I said about the Lexus, I didn't know whether it was understeering or oversteering, but the BMW just has that little bit of snap oversteer that you've got to be careful of. It doesn't really understeer as much, but you do have to be wary of that oversteer. So it's got the stability of, for example, the Mazda. It's very similar to the Mazda as well, but it has that danger of the Lexus, which kind of makes it kind of desirable as well. You know, it's sat in 19th on the tyre wear, so it's actually pretty bad. It's down the bottom, but the way that you could drive it on those tyres wasn't as bad. You could handle the tyre wear pretty well, in fact. But the BMW top 5, I don't think it's surprising. It's quite fast. It's not a car that I've driven a lot at all. And also, it does sound really, really cool. You know, I often criticize the way that the cars sound in this game, but every so often, they get a car that sounds really, really good. And the BMW, I think, is one of those cars. Top 5. Good on you. Number 4. Another Italian stallion. The Lamborghini. Possibly my favourite Group 4 car to drive. But it did really well. Really surprised me on the tyre wear. It finished 7th in overall tyre wear and did a really good, decent fastest lap as well. And the thing is, with that fastest lap, it was able to stay pretty consistent until lap 5, lap 6 as well. I'm interested to see what the Group 3 Lamborghini is like. And obviously you'll see that in the Group 3 discussion that we'll have. But the Lamborghini as well, the Italians both in the top 10. Obviously the Lamborghini and the Ferrari, no one really picks them. They're quite down low on the list. But an impressive showing. I love the way that the Lamborghini feels as well. You do have that little bit of danger, but it's not as prominent as it is in the Ferrari. It's a little bit safer, but still on the edge. To be fast in the Lamborghini, you do have to slide into those corners to get a good straight exit. I really enjoyed it. It's nice and fast. It can go a lot quicker than I did on the second lap, on the fastest lap. I remember I went super deep into the first corner. That probably cost me 2, 3, 4 tenths just on one corner. So it could have been even in third place because it's very, very close to the next car. Italian Stallion. Well done. Next up, who would have thought to see the Hyundai up here? The Hyundai up here. The Genesis in third position. Now, the Hyundai was the 4th fastest car overall. Now, this is one of the last cars that I drove as well at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, 5 hours of driving, of testing, and it was still fast enough to put in 137.2, I think it was. Insane. Just wasn't expecting it. It handles very similar to the Atenza, I would say. It's quite the Mazda. I think it's quite similar in handling there. Very, 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 very similar car to the Mazda, actually. But it was just faster. And this is another one of the cars that they have made sound pretty damn cool. 11th in tyre wear and 7th overall for fastest, slowest lap. So you can drive the car on those worn tyres, which is a massive, massive plus. What can you say? Freaking fantastic. Didn't expect to see the Hyundai up here, but we did expect to see the next two. So the top 2, did you expect them? It's the Alpha and the Megane Trophy, but who finished in the top spot? Yes, we both know they are insanely good at preserving their tyres. There's 1 point in it. In second place is the Alpha. For some reason, I couldn't link up a lap. The Alpha, I find, in my opinion, is harder to drive than the Megane Trophy. Obviously, they're both insanely good at tyre wear. I think I actually set my fastest lap with the Alpha on the 3rd lap. Maybe even the 4th. It might have been the 3rd flying lap, which just shows you how good it is at saving tyres. It's just not fun. They both suck in a straight line. I think the Megane is possibly the slowest in a straight line, and then the Alpha. But the Alpha, it's quite hard to drive. It's very wiggly. You like the Lambo, you have to throw it into the corner a little bit and make it slide to sort of get the best out of the corner. So you do have to be quite ballsy. I think it's one of those cars like we've talked before, that you need that kind of learning curve to it, and that you need to put in some practice. But second place, Alpha, 66 points overall, and then the McGann Trophy in first place with 67. What can I say? The difference was the fastest lap time. The Alpha actually finished first in tyre wear and first in fastest slowest lap. The McGann finished second in both of those categories. The Alpha finished 13th overall in fastest lap, and the McGann Trophy finished 10th overall. 1 point in it. I think both cars can obviously go faster. Possibly the Alpha should be beating it if you master the car a little bit. But there you go, the McGann Trophy. I'm not sure how it would work in race, because obviously slipstreaming is a thing. So, you know, the Alpha and the Trophy would be prone to getting overtaken on straights. But there you go. That is your 26 Group 4 cars. The McGann Trophy coming away with the top points. I would love to know your thoughts and your opinions on this. Yes, it's not a perfect system, but I think it's a pretty consistent one at that. And here are the lists beside me, so you can see what points the cars ended up on as well. Really looking forward to doing the Group 3 ones and then the comparison between the two. It should be a really cool couple of days. Please like and share this video so we can get it to as many Gran Turismo players as possible. And I really hope that it has helped you with your understanding of the cars. I know it has for me, because going into this, I didn't understand what car was what, or what they did on tyre wear or something like that. So it's helped me a lot. I hope this video has helped you as well. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, liking and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. The only thing that I missed out in this experiment is the fuel usage. Yes, that can have an effect on how the car handles and how you know, the weight of that extra fuel does have an impact on the tyre wear as well. We will be putting fuel into the testing of the Group 3 cars, but I got halfway through this and I was like, I'm not going back and doing 3 hours of those other cars again. It's just not happening. But yeah, I mean, obviously different cars use fuel at different rates. It would have been interesting to see that as well. If you have got any knowledge about what cars use a lot of fuel, put it in the comments. I'll try and pin it, and hopefully that would help someone else out as well. But the Group 3 testing will have fuel usage in it.